The smell of thyme and slow-simmered beef filled the empty diner. The same scent that once fed an entire town through the hardest winter. Then my phone lit up with the truth my daughter and her husband were already selling my life's legacy while I was still breathing. The steam rose in slow, lazy curls from the old cast-iron pot, carrying the scent of thyme and slow-simmered beef that had lived in these walls longer than most people in town had been alive. I stood at the stove in Quade's Heritage Diner, the one my grandfather built with his own hands in 1947, right on the edge of Lake Michigan, where the water turned steel gray in October. My fingers knotted now, 80 years of stirring. Chopping loving curled around the long wooden spoon. I was making the last pot of Lakeview Stew, the last one. The radio in the corner played soft Johnny Cash low enough that the lake wind outside could almost drown it. The diner was empty tonight. Just me, the hiss of the gas burner, and the faint lap of waves against the dock. I liked it that way sometimes. Quiet, let the memories breathe. My phone buzzed on the stainless steel counter. I wiped my hands on the faded apron, still the same one I'd worn the day we reopened after the mill closed in. 87, and picked it up. Dr. Elias Rowan's name glowed on the screen. I answered before the second ring. Vesper, his voice came through. Gentle, the way doctors learn to be when they have to say something final. The latest scans. They're not good. The valve is failing faster than we hoped. Without surgery soon, you're looking at months. Maybe less. Months. The word landed like a stone in still water. Ripples spread through my chest, cold and tight. I pressed the phone harder against my ear as if that could hold the news back. I know you hate hospitals, he went on, but we can do this. We have to. I stared at the pot. Bubbles rose, broke, disappeared. The stew smelled exactly like it did the winter we fed half the town when the plant shut down. Free bowls every night. No one went hungry. Not on my watch. I'll think about it, Elias, I said. My voice sounded smaller than I wanted. He sighed. Don't think too long, Vesper. Please. I ended the call. The diner lights flickered once, old wiring always threatening to quit, and then steadied. I turned back to the stove. That's when I heard her voice. Not in the room, through the thin wall that separated the kitchen from the tiny office I never used anymore. Isolde, my oldest daughter. She must have slipped in the back door while I was on the phone. She did that sometimes, came without knocking, like she still lived here, like the diner was still hers too. Her voice was low, urgent, the way it got when she was closing a deal. Yes, Damien. The scans came back worse. Mom's not going to make it through the winter if she doesn't operate. That means she won't be signing anything herself. We can get power of attorney while she's vulnerable. The chain's already offering 7 figures for the brand alone. The recipe, the name, the story. They want the whole package. A pause. I could picture her pacing in the dim office phone pressed to her ear heels, clicking on the worn linoleum. I know it sounds cold, she said, but this is business. She built it. We inherit it. And if we don't move now, the lawyers will tie everything up for years. She's not thinking straight anymore. You saw how she forgot the propane order last month. She's fading. We're just helping her let go. Helping her let go. The spoon slipped from my fingers. It clattered against the rim of the pot, loud in the quiet. I froze. They didn't hear. Isolde kept talking. The appraiser comes Tuesday. We tell her it's routine. She signs under the morphine if we have to. By spring, the place is rebranded Lakeview Heritage Grill, or whatever they call it. Corporate knows how to scale it. We walk away with enough to pay off the house, the kids' college, everything. She'd want that. Deep down. Deep down. I reached out, steadying myself against the counter. My heart gave a hard, uneven thud once, twice, like it was reminding me it was still here, still fighting. The stew kept bubbling, oblivious. I remembered the night in '87 when the mill whistle blew for the last time. Families stood in the snow outside this very door, children clutching empty lunchboxes. I opened at dawn and didn't close until the last bowl was scraped clean. I didn't charge a dime. Not one. That winter Lakeview Stew wasn't just food. It was dignity. It was proof we could survive anything. And now my own daughter saw it as a commodity, a story to sell, a brand to strip and repackage. She wanted to erase me while I was still breathing. The phone in her hand beeped. Damien must have said something. "I love you too," she murmured. "We're doing this for us. For the future. She'll understand." Eventually. Footsteps. She was coming toward the kitchen door. I turned quickly, picked up the spoon again, pretended to stir. My hand shook so badly broth splashed onto the burner. It hissed. The door swung open. Mom Isolde's voice was bright, practiced. "I didn't know you were still here. Smells amazing." I didn't look at her. I kept stirring. Slow circles. The way I'd done for 60 years. "You're working late," she said, stepping closer. "You should rest. You look tired." I felt her eyes on me, searching, weighing. I forced my voice steady. "Just finishing up," I said. "Last pot of the season." She laughed softly. "You always say that. There's always another pot." I met her gaze then, for one long second. Her smile faltered just a flicker, but I saw it. She didn't know I'd heard. She didn't know the stone had already dropped. Inside my chest, something cracked open. Not anger, not yet. Something quieter, deeper. Betrayal has its own temperature. It's cold at first, like lake water in November, then it burns. I looked down at the pot. The stew was perfect, rich, deep, the color of earth after rain. This was the last one I would ever make alone, the last one that belonged only to the people who needed it. They weren't just coming for the diner. They weren't just coming for the money. They wanted to erase my name from every bowl, every story, every memory this place had ever held. They wanted to sell the ghost of me while my heart was still beating. I set the spoon down, very gently, and I whispered to the pot, to the empty diner, to the lake outside that had listened to me for decades. They don't just want the house. They want to wipe my name off the legacy. My voice cracked on the last word, legacy. The thing I'd poured my life into. The thing I thought would outlive me. I turned off the burner. The bubbles slowed, died. I stood there in the sudden quiet, listening to my own heartbeat, erratic, stubborn, alive. Isolde was still watching me, waiting for me to speak. I didn't. Not yet. I would watch. I would wait. And when the time came, I would not let them take what was never theirs to sell. The diner lights buzzed once more overhead. Outside, the lake whispered against the pilings, and for the first time in my life, I felt the weight of silence not as protection, but as a weapon. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and wilted flowers. A single carnation in a plastic cup on the windowsill had given up days ago, its petals curling brown at the edges like old parchment. I lay propped against pillows that were too thin, the thin blanket pulled to my chin, listening to the steady beep of the monitor beside me. Each pulse sounded slower than the last, though the nurses swore the numbers were stable. I had told them I felt weaker. Much weaker. They believed me. Isolde believed me too. She arrived that afternoon with Saffron in tow, my granddaughter's backpack slung over one shoulder like she was moving in for the semester. Saffron was 16 now, tall, quiet, her hair the same chestnut as mine had been before the gray took over. She smiled when she saw me, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. It never quite did anymore. "Grandma," she said softly, setting the bag down. "Mom said I should stay a few days. Help you. You know. Rest." Isolde kissed my forehead. Her lips were cool. "You look pale, Mom. We're worried." Saffron insisted on coming. She's good at this, taking care of people. I let my eyelids flutter just enough. Let my hand tremble when I reached for the water cup. Small performances. Necessary ones. Saffron sat on the edge of the bed. She took my hand in both of hers. Her fingers were warm, soft. Too soft for 16. You don't have to do everything yourself anymore, Grandma, she said. The words came out rehearsed, gentle, like lines from a script she hadn't quite believed yet. Mom says you've carried the diner for so long. It's okay to let go. Let us help. Let us help. I closed my eyes for a long moment. Let the silence stretch. When I opened them again, Isolde was watching me. Her expression was tender. Practiced tenderness. The kind you wear when you need someone to sign something. I brought your favorite tea, she said, pulling a thermos from her purse. Chamomile. You always said it settled your heart. She poured. Steam rose between us. I sipped. It tasted like nothing. Saffron kept talking. Soft, persistent. Grandma, remember when I was little and you let me stir the stew? You said the secret was patience. That it had to simmer slow or it wouldn't hold together. She paused. Maybe the diner needs that now. Someone younger to keep it going. Mom says the company that's interested, they know how to make it last forever. Forever. The word hung in the air like smoke. I nodded slowly, weakly. I'm so tired, sweetheart, I whispered. Saffron's eyes filled. She squeezed my hand harder. That's why we're here. They left an hour later. Visiting hours ended. Isolde promised to come back first thing tomorrow. Saffron hugged me longer than usual and whispered, I love you, Grandma. We all do. The door clicked shut. The room went quiet except for the monitor. I waited 5 full minutes, then I sat up, straight, no tremble. I reached under the pillow and pulled out my old phone, the one I kept for emergencies, the one Isolde didn't know I still used. I opened the voice memo app. Hit play. Nothing yet. But I left it recording. Every night, every visit, I had learned long ago that silence isn't empty. It listens. 2 days passed like that. Saffron came every afternoon. She read to me from books I'd given her years ago. She brushed my hair. She talked about school, about boys, about dreams. And always, always, she circled back. Grandma, you don't have to worry about the diner. Mom's handling everything. She says it's better this way. You can rest. Rest. The word started to feel like a threat. On the 3rd day, Harlow Finch came. My oldest friend. 52 years of knowing each other since we were 16 and snuck cigarettes behind the mill. She walked in without knocking. Gray hair, pulled back eyes sharp as ever. She carried a paper bag from the bakery down the street. Figured hospital food was killing you faster than the heart, she said, setting the bag on the tray table. Then she leaned close. We need to talk. She pulled a chair right up to the bed. No small talk. No, how are you? She took out her phone, opened an email chain, turned the screen toward me. I read. The subject line, Lakeview Heritage, Acquisition Proposal, Phase 2. From Damian Cross to Regional Acquisitions Director, Horizon Dining Group, sent 3 weeks ago. Sat. Attached are high-resolution photos of the original recipe card, handwritten by Vesper Quade herself. The secret ingredient list is intact. We can deliver the full brand story package once POA is secured. Patient is deteriorating rapidly, timeline accelerated. Expect full transfer within 60 days. Attached 3 images. My recipe card. The one I kept locked in the safe under the counter. The one with the faded ink, the smudges from years of use, the little note in the margin I'd written in 1987. For the ones who have nothing else, give them this. They had photographed it. Cleanly. Professionally. Like evidence. Harlow's voice was low. Steady. Damien sent this the day after your appointment with Elias. I got it from a friend who still works at Horizon. She thought I should know. Thought you should know. My fingers went cold around the phone. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. They hadn't just planned to sell the diner. They had already started giving pieces of it away. My handwriting, my margins, my life pressed between the lines. Harlow touched my arm. Vesper. Breathe. I couldn't. The monitor beeped faster. I felt it, the cold wave again. Deeper this time. It wasn't just betrayal. It was violation. They had taken something sacred, something that had fed people when the world forgot them, and turned it into an attachment, a bargaining chip. Harlow waited. I finally looked at her. How long, I asked. Long enough, she said. They've been meeting with Horizon reps since summer, before the diagnosis. Before. The word landed like a slap. I closed my eyes, saw Saffron's face earlier that day, her rehearsed gentleness, her quiet insistence, saw Isolde pouring tea with that careful smile, saw the recipe card in someone else's email, my daughter, my blood, willing to let me slip away quietly so the paperwork would be easier, so the deal would close, so the brand could live on without me. A sound escaped me, not a sob. Something smaller. Broken. Harlow took my hand. You don't have to decide tonight, she said, but you can't keep pretending to fade. Not if you want to stop this. I opened my eyes. Tears slipped down my cheeks, one then another. I didn't wipe them away. I let them fall. For the first time in decades, I let someone see me cry. Not weakness. Grief. Pure, bone-deep grief. For the daughter I thought I knew. For the trust I had given without question. For the recipe that had never really been mine alone, it had belonged to everyone who needed it. And they wanted to lock it behind a corporate logo. I looked at Harlow. My voice came out hoarse, small. This time I said I won't protect her from the truth. Harlow nodded once. The monitor kept beeping steady now, determined. Outside the window, the lake was dark. Waves slapped the shore like a heartbeat. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. And in the quiet that followed, something shifted inside me. Not anger. Not yet. But resolve. Hard. Clear. I would not go quietly, and I would not let them erase me. Not while I still had breath to stir the pot. The room was dim now, only the soft blue glow from my phone screen lighting the pillows and the IV line snaking across my wrist. I had waited until after midnight. The hospital corridor outside was quiet except for the occasional squeak of a nurse's shoe and the distant hum of a floor polisher. I propped the phone against the water pitcher, adjusted the angle so my face filled the frame, not too close, not too far. Just enough to see the lines around my eyes, the gray in my hair, the way my hand still trembled when I wasn't pretending. I hit record. No script, no anger, just truth. I took a slow breath. The kind you take before you jump into cold water. Hello, I said quietly. This is Vesper Quade. Most of you know me from the diner down by the lake. Some of you probably remember the winter of '87 when the mill closed and the snow came early. We opened every day at dawn. No one paid. No one had to. We just fed people. I paused. The monitor beeped once steady. I was 19 when I took over the place from my grandfather. I didn't know much, but I knew hunger wasn't just an empty stomach. It was shame. It was fear. It was wondering if tomorrow would be worse than today. So I cooked. Every day. The same pot of Lakeview Stew. Same recipe. Same promise, if you're here, you eat. My voice cracked just a little. I let it. I never thought I'd have to say this from a hospital bed. But I'm dying. My heart's giving out. The doctors say months, maybe less. And while I've been lying here, some of the people I raised, the ones I thought would carry this forward, they've been planning to sell it. The name, the story, the recipe, all of it, to a big chain that'll turn it into something shiny and forgettable. I looked straight into the lens, not accusing, just tired, honest. I don't hate them for wanting more. I never thought they'd want it without me still in it. Without the part that matters most, the people who needed that bowl of stew when no one else cared. I swallowed. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not begging. I'm just telling you what happened. Because this diner wasn't mine alone. It was yours. It was ours. And if it's going to end, I want it to end with the truth. Not with a corporate logo. I reached forward. hit stop. My finger hovered over the share button for a long minute. Then I posted it. To the town's community page, to my personal account, to the group chat Harlow had set up with half the old mill families. Then I turned off the phone and waited. I didn't sleep. I lay there listening to the lake through the cracked window, waves rolling in, rolling out like they had for 70 years. At 2:17 a.m., the first notification came. Then another. Then a flood. Comments, shares, messages. People I hadn't seen in years typing with shaking thumbs. Old customers. Widows I'd fed. Kids who used to sit at the counter doing homework while their parents looked for work. They remembered. They were angry. They were heartbroken. By 4 a.m., the video had 3,000 views in a town of 8,000. By dawn, it was everywhere. Harlow texted at 6:12. They're talking about it at the gas station. Sheriff Langford's already called me. He wants to know if you're safe. I texted back one word, yes. At 8:47 a.m., my phone rang. Isolde, video call. I answered. Her face filled the screen. Pale eyes, red hair unbrushed. She looked like she hadn't slept. Mom, she said. Her voice cracked on the first syllable. What are you doing? Take it down. Please. Everyone's calling. Damien's phone is blowing up. The company, they're furious. They're saying the deal's off. I watched her. No triumph. Just quiet. I know, I said. Mom, you're killing us. We borrowed against it. We thought you'd understand. You thought I'd be gone before anyone noticed. She flinched. Tears spilled. I didn't want this. We needed the money. The kids. The house. Everything's falling apart. Please, call it back. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. I looked at her for a long time. The daughter I had rocked at night. The one who used to beg for extra stew on Sundays. The one who now saw me as an obstacle. No, I said. The word came out soft. Final. You chose to sell the legacy, Isolde. I choose to sell the truth. Her mouth opened. No sound came. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Then, the call dropped. I set the phone down. My chest ached, not the heart valve this time. Something deeper. I closed my eyes, let the tears come again. Silent. Hot. When I opened them, Harlow was standing in the doorway. She didn't say anything at first, just crossed the room, sat on the edge of the bed, took my hand. They're pulling out, she whispered. Horizon Dining. Official statement an hour ago. Due to recent public concerns, we are withdrawing our interest in the acquisition. Damien lost the deposit. Big. They're scrambling. I nodded slowly. No smile, no victory cheer. Just relief, mixed with sorrow so thick I could taste it. They didn't just lose money, I said. They lost the town. Harlow squeezed my hand. The town never left you, Vesper. Outside, the lake was turning silver in the morning light. Waves kept coming. Steady. Unstoppable. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something shift inside me. Not anger burning out, but something quieter. Clearer. I had spoken. The truth was out. And the world hadn't ended. It had only just begun to listen. The morning light slanted through the half-closed blinds, striping the hospital floor in pale gold bars. I hadn't slept more than an hour since the video went live. My body felt heavier, the ache in my chest, sharper, but my mind was clear. Too clear. Every beep of the monitor felt like a countdown I could no longer ignore. The door opened softly. I turned my head. Milo stood there, 17 lanky shoulders hunched like he was carrying something too big for his frame. He wore the same faded hoodie he'd had since sophomore year, the one with the frayed cuffs. In his hands, he held a small, cracked leather ledger. My ledger. The one I'd kept in the bottom drawer of the diner's office for 40 years. He didn't speak at first, just stepped inside, closed the door quietly behind him, and crossed to the bed like the floor might give way. Grandma, he said. His voice was low. Careful. I found this. In the office. after Mom and Damien left last night. They were yelling about money, about the deal falling through. He set the ledger on the blanket over my lap. I recognized every scuff, every bent corner. Inside were pages of my handwriting, neat even back then. Names, dates, amounts. Not debts in the usual sense. Favors. Small kindnesses I'd never asked to be repaid. Mrs. Callahan, 2 bowls of stew. December 87. Paid with a promise. Mr. Torres groceries for the kids when the plant laid him off. No charge. Widow Hayes free coffee every morning for a year after her husband drowned on the lake. Page after page. Milo opened it to a fresh entry recent. My breath caught. There, in Isolde's tight, hurried script, loan from Mr. Torres, $8,000. Secured against Vesper Quade's future estate. Repayment upon acquisition of Heritage Diner. Another Mrs. Callahan, $5,000. Same terms. And more. Names I knew. People who had once stood in line outside my door in the snow. People who had thanked me with tears. People Isolde had gone to quietly, secretly using my name like collateral. She hadn't just tried to sell the diner. She had borrowed against my grave. Milo's eyes were wet. She told them you were almost gone, that the money would come soon, that it was for the family. They believed her, because it was you. I closed the ledger. My fingers pressed hard against the leather until the knuckles whitened. The room seemed smaller suddenly. The beeps louder. I remembered Mr. Torres, how he'd come in after the layoff, head down, unable to meet my eyes. I'd slid 2 bowls across the counter without a word. He'd eaten standing up, then left without paying. I never asked. Now his name was in here, tied to a promise Isolde never intended to keep. Milo shifted. I didn't know what to do, he whispered. I thought, maybe you'd want it back. Before he stopped. I looked at him, really looked. This boy Leora's youngest, always the quiet one, the one who helped me clean the fryer on slow nights without being asked, he had chosen to come here. Not to Isolde, to me. I reached out, took his hand. His palm was rough from summer jobs at the marina. Thank you, I said. He swallowed hard. I'm sorry. About everything, I shook my head. Not you're sorry to carry. I opened the ledger again, stared at the pages, then I reached for my phone. Milo watched, eyes wide. I opened the town's community page, the same one where my video had spread like fire through dry grass. I took a photo of the open ledger, every name visible, every amount, every date. No blurring, no hiding. I typed slowly, carefully. I never asked anyone in this town to repay kindness. I gave because I could, because we all needed each other once. I don't call in old debts, but I will not let my grandchildren inherit new ones built on lies. This is what was done in my name. This is what was borrowed against my life. If you feel moved to settle what was freely given, the diner door is still open. If not, the truth is enough. I hit post, then I turned the phone face down. Milo exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. Within minutes, the notifications started. First a few, then dozens. People posting photos of old receipts I'd never kept. People showing up at the diner with envelopes. Cash, checks, a jar of homemade jam, a note from Mrs. Callahan. I never forgot the winter you kept my lights on. Here's what I owe and more. Mr. Torres left a simple message. I'm ashamed, but I'm paying it back. For you, not for her. By afternoon, the diner's front window was crowded with people, old faces, young ones talking in low voices, some crying, some angry. Isolde's name moved through the conversations like smoke. No one defended her. No one. She was alone now. Truly alone. Milo stayed. He sat in the chair beside the bed, scrolling through the comments, reading them aloud when my eyes got tired. one from a woman I barely remembered. Vesper fed my boys when I couldn't. I'm bringing groceries tomorrow, for the diner, for her. Another, we're starting a fund, not for her medical bills, for the diner, so it stays ours. I listened. Tears slipped down my cheeks again, not from pain, from something softer, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride, not in myself, in them, in the town that had remembered. Milo looked up from the phone. His voice was quiet. I chose you, Grandma, even though it hurts, even though Mom, she's my aunt. But this wasn't right. I turned to him, reached out, cupped his cheek the way I used to when he was small. You chose the right side, I said. Even when it hurt. That's more than most people ever do. He leaned into my hand for a second. Then he nodded. Outside, the lake caught the late afternoon sun shimmering endless. The ledger lay open between us. Not a book of debts anymore. A book of memory. And for the first time since the doctor's call, I felt the weight begin to lift. Not all of it, but enough. Enough to breathe. Enough to keep going. The spring sun came early that year, spilling gold across the lake like spilled honey. I walked out of the hospital on my own, 2 feet. Slow, yes, but steady. The scar down my chest was still pink and tender under the loose cotton shirt, but the valve was working. Stronger. The town had paid for it. Not with pity. With envelopes slipped under the diner door checks from people I hadn't seen in decades. Jars of preserves, even a quilt one of the old mill widows stitched overnight. They called it the Lakeview Fund. I called it Grace. I didn't go home first. I went straight to the diner. The sign still said Quade's Heritage Diner, but the windows were clean. The porch swept, the flower boxes blooming with pansies someone had planted while I was away. A small crowd waited, quiet, respectful, faces I knew by heart, faces that had once lined up in the snow for a bowl of stew. Harlow was there, arms crossed, smiling, like she'd won a bet with God. Milo stood beside her, taller now, shoulders straighter. Saffron was next to him. Hair pulled back, eyes clear for the first time in months. I stopped at the door, took a breath that tasted like lake water and thyme. Then I pushed it open. The bell above the door rang the same soft chime my grandfather had hung in 1947. Inside smelled like fresh paint and coffee and something deeper home. I didn't speak right away. I walked to the stove. The big pot, the one we used only for the biggest crowds, was already simmering. Someone had started it. Someone who knew. I lifted the lid. Steam rose, carrying the scent of thyme beef onions slow-cooked until they melted into sweetness. Lakeview Stew. The same. Always the same. I picked up the long wooden spoon. My hand didn't shake. I stirred. Slow circles. The way I always had. The crowd filed in quietly. No rush, no noise. Just the scrape of chairs, the clink of bowls being set on tables. I looked up. Saw Saffron and Milo standing near the counter. They weren't smiling yet. Not fully. But their eyes were on me, watching, waiting. I set the spoon down, turned to face them, to face everyone. I'm not closing this place, I said. My voice carried clear across the room. I'm not selling it either, not to a chain, not to anyone. A murmur rippled through the diners. I'm giving it back. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a single sheet of paper, simple, typed, notarized, a community co-op. Anyone in this town can buy 1 share. Small, affordable. You own a piece. You help run it. You share the profits. And the recipe, I paused, looked at the pot. The recipe for Lakeview Stew is free, printed on every menu, shared on the wall. No more secrets. No more selling what was never mine alone. Silence. Then someone clapped. One person, then another. Then the room filled with it, not wild applause, but steady, warm, like rain on the lake after drought. I looked at Saffron. She stepped forward. Her voice was small. Grandma. Mom called last night. I waited. She's getting divorced. Damien left. The court date's next month. Fraud. She's pleading no contest. I nodded slowly. I know. Saffron's eyes filled. She asked me to tell you she's sorry. She wants to say it to us, to Milo and me, in person, if we'll let her. I looked at Milo. He swallowed, nodded once. I turned back to Saffron. Then she can come, when she's ready, and she can say it, out loud, where everyone can hear. Saffron exhaled. A tear slipped down her cheek. She wiped it away. Then she smiled. Small reel. I turned back to the pot, lifted the ladle, filled the first bowl, handed it to the woman closest to me, Mrs. Callahan. She took it with both hands, tears in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I filled another, and another. The line formed, quiet, grateful. I kept ladling until the pot was nearly empty. Then I stepped back, let others take over. Saffron moved to the stove first, Milo beside her. They stirred together, smiled at each other, the first real smile I'd seen from either of them in months. I walked to the window, looked out at the lake. The water was calm today, mirror flat, reflecting the sky. I leaned against the sill, felt the warmth of the room behind me, the laughter starting low at first, then growing, the clink of spoons, the soft talk of old friends catching up. I closed my eyes, let it wash over me. Then I whispered to the lake, to the room, to anyone who might still be listening. Revenge isn't taking back what was lost. It's turning the pain into something anyone can share. I lost my daughter the way I once knew her, but I found a bigger family, one built on truth and kindness. The words hung there, quiet, true. I opened my eyes, saw Saffron glance over. She smiled again, this time wide. Real. Milo caught my eye, nodded. I nodded back. Outside, the lake kept moving slow, endless. Inside, the diner was alive. Not mine alone anymore. Ours. And that was enough. More than enough. Finally, let me send my deep thanks to you. Thank you for listening. If this story has touched your heart, I invite you to stay with us to discover more true tales of the Wild West. Stories that honor resilience, tenderness, and the spirit that God placed in those who blazed the trail. Subscribe, share, leave your thoughts in the comments, and join us once again to journey across this untamed land. Thank you. Aviso legal/disclaimer. These stories are crafted purely for entertainment and may contain imaginative additions or dramatic interpretations inspired by old frontier eras. We use AI-based resources, voice imagery, and drafting as part of our creative process, but every final detail is carefully reviewed and shaped by human effort to preserve emotional depth and authenticity. We strictly follow YouTube's rules regarding AI-generated content and refrain from deepfakes, altered identities, or misleading representations. All images, sounds, and related materials are lawfully obtained. Please do not reuse, modify, or distribute any portion of this content without written permission. Thank you for valuing creativity, respect, and original work.